verify that. And so that's part of the issue right there. If the Department of Transportation can't prove that they had ownership to be able to deed it over, then the property basically belongs to the city. And the city attorney and I have discussed a little bit maybe what the options are on that. And it could be a possibility, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott? That we may have to do the quitclaim deed ourselves as well, and that would make it more official. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I was contacted by someone from Highlands last week. They haven't been able to locate the deeds. I referred them to NMDOT. I too searched with NMDOT. NMDOT has a deed that goes from NMDOT to the university, but NMDOT doesn't have any deed showing how they obtained the property. So the concern is that, and the reason why Highlands doesn't want to move forward, or is very skeptical to move forward, is because until the city deeds whatever interest the city may have in those roads, and deeds that to the university, the city would always the city could potentially have a claim to that road. And so what we really need to, what needs to happen is for the city to determine, I guess the council to determine this issue of deeding whatever interest the city has to Highlands, and then Highlands at that point would be in the free and clear. That they obviously have a deed from NMDOT, so they're not worried about NMDOT making a claim, but they would be very concerned about the city making a claim to those roads at some point. Since I'm assuming the city's probably done some maintenance to them and other things over the years, so the way to clear this up, and I think what Highlands is asking us for, is a deed from the city to Highlands for that road, or whatever roads are going to be deeded to them.
Because the deed that I have says that DOT deeded those to Highlands.
That's correct. And Highlands isn't concerned that DOT has an interest in the property anymore, but they are very concerned that the city has an interest in those roads. And I think that they're very skeptical about moving forward until they get some type of a deed from the city, that the city says, hey, you can have all our interest in that road.
So in essence, at some point, we may or may not have to come back to council and make a request or for approval to move forward on this project. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring it up tonight, and just alert council that this could be a possibility depending on if further research either doesn't find anything to change the present situation, or we find something that, concrete. Yes, DOT had the property and they were capable of doing what they did.
Sure, if I can. Mr. I'm just curious, I've seen the same, I believe that deed from the DOT to Highlands was in 91.
Right, that's the same one.
Is that the one that you guys you've seen?
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious as to, why is DOT kind of holding off on their part if they actually owned it, or they just can't find the information? Is that?
I think that's the information that maybe they made assumptions that they did have the property. That's the only thing I can think of. And then, the question was raised, well, if you can't prove it, then it may belong to the city.
Well, the other point is that why haven't they maintained it then? You know what I mean? If they've been under the impression that it hasn't been deeded over to Highlands, why haven't they maintained it? So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Mattel?
This street, National Avenue, is older than the city itself. It's a Santa Fe Trail. It's a common path of travel. It's the lifeline to the Plaza Park, old historical business, including the Plaza Hotel. This is just another nail in the coffin for the West Las Vegas side of the city, business owners. Businesses are closing down as it is in Old Town. Closing down National would only increase business closures. Might as well throw the key away for Old Town. Currently, we have a project going on. You know this, LP 400.2. It's a local government appropriations. In this, we're investing $1.6 million to repair, and this is the state putting in 95% of this funding, which is $1.6 million, with a city match of 5%. That's all we're putting into this project, 5%, which is $81,000. This project involves road construction, plan, design, construction management, pavement rehab, drainage improvements, miscellaneous constructions from National to Bridge Street around the plaza, including streets like Camino de las Escuelas, North Gonzales, South Gonzales, Hot Springs Boulevard, South Pacific. It's going to capture all that area. Now, why would we do this kind of investment to close down the main artery, the main street to Old Town? I really don't understand it. That two-lane road that the university would do, a university two-lane, it's not wide enough, it causes the same issues that they're having at National Avenue. I mean, that's not going to do it for me. I've heard citizens left and right this last week. What are you guys doing to this town? You want us to move away? And they are. People are moving away. You know, I would not want to jeopardize this project. I don't know if National Avenue is tied in because of the amount of traffic that goes through there, and that's why we're getting this funding for Old Town. It would be an inconvenience to a lot of people by shutting down National, local and otherwise. Our visitors to this community would be impacted. The public that I have spoken to disagree on closing down National. Maybe there's another group or other groups at Highlands or wherever that are for it. But this is what I'm hearing, and this is the people that I represent. I believe that trying to fix one problem by creating 10 more other problems. That's what we're doing here. How many people have died in that street if it's such a safety issue?
Well,
Excuse me, ma'am.
okay.
I haven't heard of any deaths. And if somebody's gonna get run over, they could get run over in front of City Hall, in front of my house, in front of Walmart, or anywhere else. There's 12 people, I believe, that work in that administration building. And I'm sure none of them walk across the street. It's more of the students. And there's other alternatives that can be done for pedestrian crossings. I feel that with today's shortages of funding in our state, suffering, we should utilize our resources in a more effective way. I do not support this, Mr. Mayor. I think that it will shut down Old Town completely, traffic-wise and everything. Right now, we gave the street to East Las Vegas schools over here between Mountain View and Legion. And what happens? Everybody has to go all the way around, whether you're going to the hospital, the fire station, or to your home. Everybody has to travel all the way around. You go to 10th Street, the same way. We gave that, I don't know if to Highlands or not, but they made it a one-way. The other day, they put signs and blocked half of the road. I mean, really? We're having to go all around town chasing, to go pay a bill, we have to go all the way around. And I know it was necessary to do it there on Douglas, but there you go again. You run all the way around to Lincoln Park, to go all the way around the plaza, to come back around. What are we doing? Shutting off everybody, every access? Not only this is a safety issue for fire and police as well, ambulances. That used to be a state road. All the way from Grand, from the interstate, all the way national, all the way to the park, all the way to Hot Springs Boulevard. It used to be a state road at one time. The state used to maintain it. And I believe they gave it to the city. And I don't believe that they've ever given it to Highlands. And I know that the New Mexico DOT is researching it now. And I know the city don't have no records, according to what I understand. So I don't really understand why we were gonna be spending all these resources on a time with this pandemic and not knowing the unknown for the next year or so, to be focused on something like this. So that's my piece, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you for my time.
Thank you. Ms.
Thank you, Mayor.
Rodriguez?
And I'm sorry, excuse me, I thought you were done, that's why I was going to interject. The question I have is regarding university. And they're suggesting making that into a 2-lane, correct?
That's correct.
So does that plan also assume that people would not be able to park right on the street?
Yes.
Because it
Yes.
wouldn't be wide enough.
Right.
That's correct.
There's no parking.
And, okay, so there would be no parking, okay. And I understand the concern and then the historical value of a road, but also there's a huge concern with pedestrian safety on that road. We do get a lot of traffic through there, and you get a lot of speeders. And since I've been working there, I've been almost hit 3 times, so there is a safety concern. And I know at one point they put speed bumps, but that didn't seem to slow down the traffic. And that is a major concern, because we do have a lot of students crossing back and forth on that national road, not just students, but residents. I mean, residents are always walking also in that area, so that's a concern. I don't know if closing it down would, I guess it would eliminate that problem. And more universities are doing that. They're closing down roads that have, where you have a lot of students having to cross or pedestrians having to cross, and they make it into a nice walkway. And I think that was placed into the comprehensive plan, is that it would get more people walking in that area. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's all.
I have a point in that the reason why they went with this was because of wayfinding and to improve traffic to Old Town. They didn't do this because it was going to stop people from going into Old Town. This plan was made so that people have a direct shot into Old Town off the interstate without having to turn right, turn left, go around anywhere. It's a straight shot into Old Town. That is the reason why the master plan included this. It would be a direct line. You get off the university exit and you would go right into Old Town. It has nothing to do with cutting off Old Town or the businesses there. In fact, this plan was done to increase business in Old Town and to increase traffic to go to Old Town. So right now, all the wayfinding that they've done with the master plan, if you get off University right now, you only get to 7th Street. And then you have to take a right or a left to get to the university. You can't go straight to where Sala de Madrid is and Martinez Hall and Roosevelt Auditorium. It's already set up to discourage people from going into Old Town. This plan was made so that you can get off the interstate, off University Avenue exit, get onto University, and go all the way into the plaza, follow that red line, It's not cutting off anywhere. This plan was made to improve the traffic to the business community. And that's why several business owners in the plaza area support this, because it's the way to get traffic directly from the interstate to their shop on Bridge Street.
That's correct.
That's the only reason why they did this plan, was to increase traffic to Old Town. They didn't do it for any other reason. It's wayfinding. And if you could see the plan, and it's outlined by red, along that line, there's going to be signs that direct people directly to the shops in Old Town. That was the only reason why this plan was considered, and it's part of the master plan. So us not going with advice, we just talked about this in our last meeting, is that we have a master plan that we need to start working and start basing our decisions off of. This is a recommendation from the master plan and the people who put this plan together. This plan was created to get traffic off the interstate to Old Town. That was the only reason why this plan was created. Now, whether we decide to close National, that's a whole other issue. But if we just focus on this one plan and making University a two-way street, there's no parking along in front of Sala de Madrid or anywhere. It's two-lane traffic, period. There's no parking. This is a wayfinding project. This is what they spend lots of money on, to develop a plan to get people off the interstate and into Old Town. That's the primary reason why this plan exists. And that is to increase traffic off the interstate to businesses in Old Town and on Bridge Street. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Wilmer?
Want to add to that, that's exactly correct as far as having direct access from the interstate all the way into the plaza area. I mean, as you see in the map, you come out off I-25, a straight shot going into University. And I don't know, where Highland stands on this, but one question that, since back then and then even now, is their commitment to ensure that University, because, there is a lot of student traffic also on University. Of course, they're not going to be able to park, but what about those students that are in the dorms that are walking? We're still going to have that issue that we have on National. So we need, some type of commitment from Highlands, and, they have more resources, bond money and stuff that they're able to get to. I mean, if the city does look towards this, this plan, which, obviously we have, but we need more of a commitment from Highlands as to, are you going to ensure that the students aren't going to be, walking through those? We're not going to have six crosswalks for students, which, it's going to, it's actually, more burdensome to those coming in using your University. Can they do an overpass bridge or something to where it's all about, everybody wants to save time. We're fortunate enough in our community that from one side of town to the other, it's 5 minutes with no traffic, 10 with traffic. So one block, in general isn't going to hurt. You know what I mean? It's not going to affect us too much, But the thing is, are the students still going to continue to need access to the crossing, and we're still going to have the same problems that we do on University? That's kind of one of my concerns. As far as that, as far as businesses closing, that was the intention of this, is to get more people to go to the plaza. I know the second phase was to come, either through New Mexico or South Pacific. So it's not like, these plans, if not followed, we're trying to close business. The plan is to get as many people off the interstate to these businesses and to ensure that, that people come to our town and not just pump gas and leave. But those are my concerns, a commitment from Highlands that, you know, if the city does look towards this, that we are gonna have that commitment that there is not gonna be no parking and that, so the university belongs to the city, or is that still Highlands?
Well, that's the question.
That's the question.
Oh,
Yes.
university itself.
Both university and
question was
national, yeah, they're in the same situation.
Oh.
And, you know, there are economic issues, you know, that, you know, some people overlook. One person explained, he said, well, we're gonna take people off of National, they're not gonna see Carnegie, and things like that, right? But then on the other hand, we'll be putting people on the university, which is a commercial district, and maybe we can get some stores, we got vacant stores there, and maybe that would entice a business owner to open up on a busier road or a main road into town. So there are trade-offs everywhere on this project. And I think for the most part, for the benefit of everybody. And the whole idea is to get people down to the plaza. That's the whole concept behind this, and this is what the citizen meetings and the public meetings were all about, and the business people were all there, and I don't ever remember hearing a nay from any of the business owners that they'd be in fear of losing customers this way.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Devoe?
we had, in the previous administration, we had talked about this, and we talked about the straight shot from the pass all the way to Old Town, and we looked at it for our benefit of our businesses there, and, you know, people won't have to go, you know, we like the idea, you know, and that's the only reason that we talked about it, and we looked at the plans, some of the issues that some of the citizens had, and this and that about the one way, you know, but, you know, I'm for what we're doing, you know, it's a straight shot. We might lose a lot of the history of the plans, you know, but the way on this recommendation looks good for us, you know, so we're looking at more businesses downtown, and that's what we're looking for.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
One other thing now, again, this is a plan, this is what we like, you know, this is what we envision, but again, if it's not feasible to where that, you know, this route is just as convenient, I mean, just as convenient or more convenient to those to get, you know, to downtown, again, I mean, so tonight you're asking just to start the conversations, is that there's no monetary commitment or anything
No.
from the city, just to go ahead and start
Right.
those conversations?
Because, you know, we're going to need to start bringing everybody in. You know, if Highlands is in agreement and the city is in agreement, we're still going to have some public meetings on this anyway. We've already decided to do that. And then, of course, we've got to bring DOT in. There's things about traffic lights and all this other stuff. You know, and there's going to be some cost involved too. So, you know, we have
That's
to
what I was
look at
gonna
that
ask
from,
if, you know,
right, and
traffic
that has to
study
be
would-
determined too. You know, what is it going to cost to basically do what we want to do and get that accomplished? Because we have to change the intersection at University and National, where it comes back into National. That intersection there has to be changed a little bit so the traffic can flow around properly. And so there's going to be some costs, obviously, to do this.
But the important part, my concern is just, let's get those conversations and commitments from Highlands. I mean, basically, let's put it this way, if Highlands wants to, and this is kind of the process and, you know, maybe, you know, changing this was, if Highlands wanted to, they could just come to the city and say, you know what, guys, this is our property, am I right, Scott, legally? Can they just shut it down since it's their property?
Well, it's not conclusive whether it's their property.
No, but let's use the assumption that
If we
it's their
found,
property.
if we found the deed where the city gave that road to NMDOT, then the city doesn't have a claim to the roads. And in that case, New Mexico Highlands can move forward
Yeah.
without anybody say so. But nobody knows that such a deed ever existed, and so DOT's looking for it, we've looked for it, Highlands looked for it. Nobody can find a deed whereby the city said, here's our interest in the road, here Highlands, or here in the DOT, here it is, and that's the issue. Otherwise, Highlands wouldn't need to talk to us, they could just move forward, but they're not sure, their interest in the road is subject to question. That's why we're here.
And the other issue is, I just wanted to let you know, is that I've been in conversation with the president, and he is in favor of these plans. And they're willing to help however they can to make this happen. Again, Mr. Montoya's right. It's going to, if it's going to cost us, design and all that stuff, we need to know what, if they're going to pitch in, or how we're going to do it, or I don't want it to be burdensome to the city in any way financially, but it seems like a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's difficult. We're not going to have to construct another street or anything. It looks like it's practically easy to do. Striping, changing intersections, signs.
And there is, and maybe after we're done with this portion here, there is one issue that I think the council should be made aware of in executive session under matters pertaining to the sale or acquisition of real property. It probably wouldn't take more than about 5 or 10 minutes, but there's something that the council should be made aware of.
Regarding this issue?
Yes, regarding.
Okay.
So should we table this? I mean,
I don't see a reason to table it,
Well, there's nothing to act on,
right?
I guess, because that was my primary question. What are we doing? They're asking for recommendation to give staff direction to work with Highlands and DOT. Well, I'm against that. I'm not gonna spend our resources on foolishness. Look. But according to the mayor and Mr. Hendrickson, it was just for discussion. It was just bringing us up to date. That's what he said.
but I think, we would want to know who it belongs to.
Well, I think part of the reason they're taking this to the border regions is because it's going to require resources on Highlands' behalf, and it's going to change the landscape of the university.
That's correct.
And that's why they want to take this to the border regions for approval. And that's why when the master plan was being developed, they already had public input. They had all the businesses there. They had everybody that possibly that could speak pro and con about this issue at these meetings. And that's why it is recommended in the master plan, because everyone was in favor of this. Now, I know that not everybody's going to like it, but I think some people are misinformed as to how the traffic's going to flow and what the benefits are to the businesses in Old Town.
Mr. Mayor, if I could have, Bill, and I don't know, I can't recall this, if university was on the asset management plan?
Yes.
Okay, question that I have on that is, university able to withstand the amount of traffic that would go, I guess, long-term, we don't want to be, let's say, like, the way we did Mountain View now. Where once traffic starts to go through there quite a bit, then we end up, and here in a few years, we're having to commute. I don't know if you could look into that.
Yeah, I've already looked at it. I forget exactly how it was rated, but it was rated poorly, just because of the condition of the road, and it's pretty obvious to any of us who travel on University. It is in sad shape. So, but as far as, for the number of cars or trucks or whatever that would utilize that part of it, I couldn't really tell you
Well, the rate,
specifically.
let's say the bigger trucks, again, we're stuck with that, bigger trucks use that, of course, wear and tear on the road, so just long-term, something to keep in mind before we.
Have to be probably with this project, there's some consideration would have to be put into doing
Restricting
something on
size.
that road from Grand to 8th Street, for sure. But obviously, it's, we're also using National, which is more of a residential street in that same area. And then technically, if somebody's coming into town, they're gonna turn at the signs and come into town that way. So, rather than turning at the light.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. National Avenue is terrible. From Grand all the way to 8th Street. It's absolutely terrible. It's probably one of our worst streets right now. It's a very bad street.
Probably heavily used.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
So
Like
just for
Councilman.
clarification, is he allowed to at least have those conversations, is that?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Next order of business, Mr. Mayor, executive session.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to enter executive session for matters pertaining to discussion of the sale and acquisition of real property as permitted by Section 10-15-1, H8 of the Open Meetings Act.
There's a motion on the floor. I'll entertain a second.
A second.
Second by Elaine Rodriguez. All in favor? Aye? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call on executive, right?
Oh, do we need a roll call for that
I
one?
believe so. Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. Counselor Montoya,
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Counselor Romero,
Yes.
Counselor Ivadi Jr.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I have a question.
exit executive session, and note for the record that only those matters specified in the motion for executive session were discussed, no decisions were made. And also, I'd like to make a motion to enter into regular session.
There's a motion on the floor. I'll accept a second.
A second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. All in favor, or do you want a roll call?
A roll call, please.
Okay, roll call.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Toya?
Yes, under
Counselor
one motion.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Mr. Mayor, motion carries.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
A second.
Motion by Romero, second by Rodriguez. Roll call. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, motion
We're going to get used to this.